The very first time that I went to the mini webinar and generated those applications, I went from $450 per strategy session down to about 15 to 20 bucks. It was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And that was the start of a huge transition and a huge shift. And there's lots of people out there who are implementing mini webinars right now, and it's become brand awareness now, which is quite awesome. Welcome to Sold with Webinars, a podcast that aims to uncover how the most successful experts, coaches, consultants, and e-course professionals sell their products and services with just one sales presentation or webinar. A simple sales webinar can transform the business and life of a solopreneur. And this podcast will show you how other experts just like you are generating 6 and 7 figures per year online with their webinars. If you'd like to join our Facebook community where I share exclusive members-only content, join our Sold with Webinars Facebook group. For blogs, content, and information about our webinar services, visit thewebinaragency.com. And to download a free comprehensive 6-month, $466,000 webinar case study, go to soldwithwebinars.com. Now, let's get started. Hey, what's going on, experts? It's Joel Erway here. Welcome to another very special episode of Sold with Webinars. Welcome to part 3 of our special 3-part podcast series on the types of marketing webinars to implement in your business. Now, to give you a quick recap as to why we are doing this, it's been my experience over the past few months of hopping back on the phone with my prospects, back on the phone with my leads, and just talking to people in the industry that people don't realize what you can really do with marketing webinars. A lot of them are tunnel vision focused and thinking that there's only one way to run a webinar. And what I've done on this 3-part podcast series is to introduce you to the 3 core objectives, which we discussed in part 1 of our 3-part series. We talked about the 3 core objectives of the marketing webinars. Then in part 2, we talked about the 4 webinar promotion strategies. And in today, we're going to talk about the 4 webinar formats that you can leverage for your marketing webinars. And the reason why we've done this is because every single one of these comes with their own combination. And so I wanted to outline all of these different combinations so you realize the full potential of what you can be doing with your marketing webinars and your content. So you can give it the full gamut, give it the full extension of and the full longevity of your webinars. All right. So are you ready? Ready to get into it? Let's talk about the 4 webinar formats that you can discuss that you can use inside of your business. And number 1, let's talk about the evergreen webinar. This is quite possibly the most popular and the most desired webinar format that is out on the market today. Think about all the different software platforms that are leveraging automated webinars right now. You've got EverWebinar, you've got Stealth Seminar. Those are probably the 2 most popular. I know Big Marker is coming out with an automated webinar platform, and we've got Click Meeting, and I think GoToWebinar may even be coming out with an automated webinar platform. Everybody knows about evergreen webinars, and that's like the holy grail. Right? 9 times out of 10, somebody comes through my funnel, they sign up for a strategy session, and at least these are the people that I've been speaking with over the past few months as I've been taking these calls. But they say, Joel, I want a webinar and I want it to be evergreen, right? Well, they go through and they come into the funnel and they're like, okay, yes, I want that evergreen webinar. 9 out of 10 of the people are not qualified for an evergreen webinar. Evergreen webinar is always the end goal. Like, I always want to get a webinar to go evergreen because that's what we're going to scale our time with. Everyone dreams of the day. They dream of the day that they can put $1 in and get $2, $3, $4, $5 back out, maybe even more, with an evergreen webinar. And unfortunately, yes, that can absolutely happen. It does happen, right? We've gone through tons of examples before inside of the Webinar Vault, and we've written tons of webinars that have been successful in this light. However, it's never where we want to start. It's never where we want to start because there are so many things that we want to get dialed in before we go evergreen. But the evergreen webinar is the holy grail. We get people to know, like, and trust us, and we can do evergreen webinars where we don't fake the live element, where we don't run comments all over the place, using those fake live tactics, right? An evergreen webinar does not have to be as if it were live. People still value the content that you're going to be giving them. They are an excellent way to build rapport, build trust with your audience, right? And that is the holy grail. And you can give them urgency. You can give them scarcity. You can make limited time offers with your evergreen webinars. And they're very, very powerful, but they're usually never where we start. Okay, so that's the first webinar format that I wanted to discuss. The second webinar format that I wanted to discuss is what I call the mini webinar. Now, the mini webinar is also completely automated. However, the primary goal and the core objective of a mini webinar is to use them for lead generation. And we do this for high ticket offers. We're using a quick 10 to 15 minute mini webinar to generate awareness and speak to that hot level buyer, that hot level prospect who is willing and able and ready to have a problem solved in their business. Now, we've had a lot of success with mini webinars. To give you some context, when I switched my business from an automated webinar to generating leads, high ticket applications, I was generating high ticket applications for around $450 per strategy session. Now, to give you some context, that's very, very expensive. We were still profitable, but that's because we had a very good sales team and we had a very compelling offer. However, that's unscalable. $450 per application per strategy session is unscalable, and I knew that. So I needed to figure out a way how to get that number down. And that's how I discovered the mini webinar. The very first time that I went to the mini webinar and generated those applications, I went from $450 per strategy session down to about 15 to 20 bucks. It was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And that was the start of a huge transition and a huge shift. And there's lots of people out there who are implementing mini webinars right now. And it's become brand awareness now, which is quite awesome. Lots of people in the marketplace are talking about mini webinars, and it's been a way for us to really educate the marketplace and come at it a unique angle, right? We have a very specific way that we approach our market, that we approach our leads, and we approach our ads when we promote these mini webinars. But those are the first two webinar formats that we're talking about, the evergreen webinar and the mini webinar, all right? Let's talk about the third webinar format that is possible, and that is the paid webinar. Now, what do I mean by a paid webinar? Well, webinars by nature are events, okay? They are an event model. They are an event opportunity. And people love events. They love signing up for an event because an event is an opportunity. It is a big deal. You sign up for something, you buy a movie ticket and you're going to an event there. Like, you're going to a play. Like, there is a different aura with webinars and with events. And so if you think about a paid webinar, you're selling tickets to an event, and it's an excellent way to pre-qualify your audience. Now, I'll be fully transparent with you. We've done paid webinars in the past and it worked very, very well. We had a very high closing ratio when we ran a paid webinar, meaning we sold tickets for, $20 or $15 to a live webinar. And then I got on the call and I pitched my program, and it was definitely a higher close rate than if I were to do them free. However, the downside is it's difficult to sell a ticket to a live event. And, you really want to make sure that going the paid webinar model, this would be ideal for like an internal launch. I would not run paid traffic to a webinar event. At least I haven't tried it yet, but my initial hunch would not be that would be the most effective way. Running an internal launch webinar to either a JV partner, and this is what I did. I actually did it to a JV. So my JV partner sold tickets for my event, my webinar, and at the end, I sold my program, and we split the profits. It was a very, very effective way because now everyone who showed up to my attendance rate was higher, and people who were in attendance, like, they were all very much interested in my offer at the end. It was a very, very congruent method for selling my program at the end of the webinar. So that is webinar format number 3, the paid webinar. Now, the fourth webinar format, fourth and final, is the live webinar. And this is probably, I'd say, the second most popular of all 4 formats that we've talked about. in terms of popularity, evergreen is going to be the most popular because that's what everybody wants. But in terms of what most people recognize as webinars, they are looking at the live webinars. So what are the pros and cons of live webinars? Well, the pros are you get to leverage the absolute single most greatest element of what a webinar provides, and that is engagement and connection with your audience. No other sales tool, no other internet marketing tool on the planet allows you to connect at a deep level with a mass amount of audience, a mass amount of individuals in one setting as a live webinar does. This is the biggest pro, the absolute biggest benefit to running this live event, this live webinar. Your audience is going to love you if you can call out their name, if you can engage with them, hold a conversation, answer their questions live on the webinar. Can you imagine how much goodwill you're giving to your audience, whether they buy from you right then or not? A live webinar is the single most powerful tool to be able to build that connection and build that rapport and relationships with your audience, right? Most of us have all been on a webinar, and you understand what I mean when somebody's on that webinar and they're engaging with you. You feel that sense of connection without even seeing this person in real life. That is why live webinars are so powerful, why they are so important for your development in your marketing system. Okay. The cons with a live webinar are, number one, they take your time. Yes, they do. And you have to deal with, potentially some technical setups and some technical issues, right? We have seen some live webinar platforms crash. Webinar Jam has not been the most user-friendly, and we've had a couple of clients who have had live huge audiences on live webinars, and they can't handle the capacity. And you're going to run into some potential glitches. Obviously, you can mitigate many of these by starting slow, doing test runs, a lot of very basic things. But yes, you run the risk of running into some technical issues with a live webinar. Those are the two major pros and cons with live webinars. But I will tell you, the pros far outweigh the cons by a mile. By a mile. When you connect and you can speak directly to your audience and call them out by name, they're going to be a respectful member of your audience, of your tribe. That is how you build rapport. That is how you build a bond. That is how you build a relationship with your audience quickly. Leveraging live webinars into your business is extremely powerful. It is extremely powerful. And I highly recommend that everyone implement live webinars into their business, even if you only get one person to show up to your call. Talk to them, make them feel engaged, make them feel like they're the most important person in the room, because they are important. And that is how you get started. Wow, we have covered a lot over this 3-part series. We've covered the 3 core objectives, the 4 webinar promotion strategies and the 4 webinar formats. Now, as I mentioned before, there's every single one of these options presents us with a new combination of how we approach our strategy of the webinar. And I wanted to open the kimono and let you know that there's so much more that you can be doing with all of your content, with all of your marketing, your webinar marketing, because so many people think that there's only one type of webinar, and they only think there's an evergreen webinar, and they only think that they can do paid traffic to it, and they only think they can do it as a direct selling webinar. When in reality, you can use that evergreen webinar, you can do a JV promotion to it, you can do it as content and branding, you can do it as a lead generation style webinar. And I highly recommend that if you're not having success with one of those core objectives, try another objective. Try another objective, try another avenue, right? If you don't have the budget to run traffic to your webinar, go reach out to a partner. Ask them if you can present content to them, and don't even offer a pitch. Just do content and branding and build your audience. If you want to start with your high ticket offer, then start with a mini webinar, which you can also do to a JV audience, which you can also do to an internal launch, which you can also use as paid traffic, right? You can use that for lead generation. Try all of these different combinations, and I promise you, you will see results with your marketing, and you will see the different avenues in which new opportunities will open up for you. All right, I have had an absolute blast on delivering this series, this 3-part series on the types of marketing webinars in your business. And I hope that this has been insightful for you. So I would appreciate it, if you enjoyed this series, shoot me a message over at joel@thewebinaragency.com. I check out all my emails. I try to reply to everybody. I promise you I will read it. Reach out to me and let me know, did you like this series? What types of content do you want me to produce next? Are you looking for more technical content? What do you want to learn next? I need to get some feedback so I can continue to deliver this value for you and make this podcast as beneficial as possible for you. So I appreciate all of you. Please, if you haven't already, go check out the iTunes reviews, and I would appreciate an honest and fair rating of what you think about this podcast. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. For blogs, content, and information about our webinar services, be sure to visit thewebinaragency.com. If you'd like to download a free, comprehensive 6-month, $466,000 webinar case study, go to soldwithwebinars.com. And if you'd like to join our Facebook community where I share exclusive members-only content, join our Sold with Webinars Facebook group. Finally, if you enjoy this content, be sure to give us an honest review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Join us next time, and I'll see you there.